That's perfect. All
Good.
right, thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. Wow. Okay, I will go.
One small step for man.
I know. That's awesome. Okay, as a preliminary matter, this is Kathy Baird, Secretary of the Advisory Committee of Non-Voting Taxpayers. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. So, members I have here, please answer that you're here. Scott, on?
He was here.
Pictures are.
Did we lose him?
I don't think so.
They're playing with it. It's not you.
He's not on the, I don't see him on the screen.
Okay, well, he was here.
Yeah.
All right, so no Scott. I'm here, Kathy Baird. Peter Halley,
Here.
Steve Perelman,
Here.
Lou Bassano,
Here.
Lynn Phillips, here. Don Gardner, Green,
Here.
Mary Beller,
Here.
Peter Kahn,
Here.
Pam Swan,
Here.
Patty Deuster.
Here.
Who is CL? A guest? Must be a guest.
Yeah.
Okay. Be really good if you could switch that to put your name on there. And Scott's not on, and Ralph.
I think Ralph resigned, didn't he?
He's right here.
I'm here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Great. Okay.
In person, and we have Curtis here.
Okay. Excellent. Okay. Go ahead and
And Donna Martino.
And Donna Martino, sorry. I didn't see you get on there. All right. Good morning. This is the open meeting of the Advisory Committee of Non-Voting Taxpayers being conducted remotely and in person, consistent with Governor Healy's order. Okay. And
See that? That made a line go across it. I don't know how you get that down. You touched it.
okay,
You didn't touch it.
the rest of it. For this meeting, the ACNVT is convening by video conference and in person. It's posted on the town's website identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded, that all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and to take care not to share your screen or your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials have been provided to members of this body and are available on the town's website, unless otherwise noted by the chair. The chair will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each member to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in a conversation with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. For items on public comment, after members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment to those members of the public that have joined the meeting via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their names and be acknowledged by and speak through the chair. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. There you go.
Okay. Thank you, Kathy. All right. We have a quorum. So first we need to approve today's agenda.
So move.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any opposition? Seeing none, the agenda for today is approved. And we also need to approve the minutes from our last meeting of March 2nd. Do I have a motion to approve? They were sent to you by Kathy.
So move.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Any opposition? Seeing none, the minutes from the meeting of March 2nd are approved. Okay. Mike, we have Mike Burns back with us. I was just checking. Mike is very popular with us because we usually get him annually, but we've got him within 9 months. He was with us in August, and he's back. I guess it says a little bit about the issues you're dealing with, Mike, that they are of significant concern to everyone, and certainly to those of us who are members of this committee. So I think everybody on the committee knows you and knows of your background, so there's no need to do a big introduction, except to say that Mike was the traffic director, or transportation, I should say, director for Nantucket for many years. Then went down to Houston for a few years to see how the big boys do it, and has brought that back, hopefully. So maybe we can make some advances in our little island. So, Mike, it's yours. I think what I'd suggest is we've got probably about 45 minutes to deal with what's facing you today, what are the big items on your plate, and then questions from our folks.
Sure, and if it's all right, Mr. Chair, I do have to apologize. I had some network issues getting into our server to load up a presentation that I had Frankensteined a bunch of slides together to kind of just gloss over the array of issues and stuff that we've done. If it's all right, I'll share my screen. And the
Sure.
one presentation that I do have on my machine that I have access to is History of Nantucket Bike Paths. I got to give a presentation on Wednesday. The good news about this is it concludes with a lot of these different initiatives I think a lot of you are kind of interested in. So if it's all right, I'll just run through this.
Yep.
If it's all right, so kind of maybe I guess hone in on a specific subject, and that's history of Nantucket bike paths. And like I said, I'm giving this slideshow on Wednesday. Thank you for letting me rehearse it with you all, if that's all right. Just going back to the history of the bicycle itself, so a lot of you may know more about this than I do. I'm going to try to sound semi-intelligent on this. The velocipede was invented, I guess, in 1869. This was in the manufacturing of the bicycle kind of took off in France and England about this time. The first, what they called the safety bicycle on island was in the 1890s. However, this I found was not the first bicycle on Nantucket. That happened in 1886. The owner, J. Stockley Gray, the bicycle was called an ordinary. And then in the 1890s, the bicycle club was formed. Fines for misusing your bicycle were, a $20 fine is a little outrageous for 1890.
Yeah.
And in fact, they're not that quite high anymore. That's more like a $5 fine these days. So it's that was a very serious matter to ride your bike and not use your bell as you're passing somebody at a high speed. So that was a very serious matter and still is. And then later in the 1890s, the first bike path was built on Nantucket out to Sconset. This was not paved, however. In 1857, Robert Mooney, as a lot of you likely know, received funding for the first state-funded paved bike path on the island. And then today we have now more than 35 miles of bike paths maintained by the Nantucket Department of Public Works, and that is the most mileage of paths maintained by any municipality in the Commonwealth. And I pulled a lot of this information. There's some citations at the bottom here. Robert Young did a good history. Yesterday's Island has a good history. But there's also was a good history by Preservation Institute Nantucket. There was a student a couple of years ago that put together a good deck of slides with good photographs, did a lot of good research here. And here's the picture of the cycling club in the 1890s, with the wee weeders. Moving on into the 1900s, there's an ad for a bicycle for $35, which I guess is still a lot of money from the 1900s compared to to the value these days. And there's some more historical photos of the Surfside Hotel collapse with a bicycle in the foreground. Moving on into the also in the early 1900s, the banning of the automobile era, 1908 to 1918. And, there's the iconic photos of the, no motor vehicles are excluded from this area, and then the horse-drawn vehicle because you weren't allowed to operate a motorized vehicle for a number of years. So going on to the 1950s, the bicycling was still very much into the culture. And here's, imagery of the families and Sconset and in the downtown area. But it was also the automobile was really becoming part of the culture as well. And here's an ad for an automobile and on I guess this is Orange Street. There. And this is again in the 1960s. You start to see the friction between the automobile culture and the bicycling culture. But even today, as seen in this image, this juxtaposition from the 60s to present day, bicycle is still the mode of choice for a number of visitors and residents on the islands, as seen from this imagery out in Surfside. And in downtown, we've done a good job of installing more and more bike parking opportunities in the downtown area recently. So that's still very much some initiatives to help accommodate the use of that. Here's a map of our existing system. The purple lines are paths built since 2007, and I'm picking on 2007. That was really the kind of launch of a era of constructing a lot of paths with the completion of the Old South Road bike path in 2006. The Hummock Pond path came some years later. Here's a more of a timeline showing from 1890s, the very first path along Milestone Road. Sporadically, some of the bigger paths got constructed, Surfside, Cliff Road, in the 1990s, Pulpus was built, and then you see the stacking of projects in the early 2000s, Eel Point, Airport Road, Old South Road, Fairground, South Shore, Nobody Farm Road, and then in the 2010s, the extension of the Cliff Road path to Sherburne Turnpike, the Hummock Road bike path, the first phase of the in-town bike path completed in 2017, and on the far right, you'll see Milestone Road on the north side of the roadway. That's a project that's starting to get implemented now. That'll be extended later this, well, not later this year, in the next coming years. That project's being advertised this summer, and we'll extend the path along the north side of the road from Monomoy all the way out to the Pulpus Road bike path. And then there's the out year projects that I can touch on as part of this discussion with you all. I'm sure a lot of you have questions about the Wawanet path, Tom Nevers, Mid-Island connections, and future phases of the in-town path. I have a big blue arrow there showing the 100 years after the Nantucket Central Railroad. Actually, I went out of order. I'm not going to do that. 100 years after the Nantucket Central Railroad folded, and a lot of you know the history of that. The railing were picked up, melted down, and used to construct battleships. 100 years after that railroad was shut down, the in-town bike path along the Orange Goose Pond Causeway was constructed. So very timely. Literally 100 years after the railroad was closed down, it was repurposed for a bike path. Just highlighting some of the recently built paths. You all may have used the Cisco bike path or the Hummock Pond Road bike path. That was built with a $500,000 challenge grant from an abutter in the area, that if the path could be built by 2013, that $500,000 should be donated to the town. I remember giving a presentation at the NHA about the construction process of the path that involved, advertising through Cisco Brewery, and the proceeds from the sale of a blueberry beer that year went to help fund the construction of the Hummock Pond Road bike path. I believe that was in the vicinity of $100,000. I can't remember exactly what the donation value was. I don't think I'm off by an order of magnitude or anything. But that was kind of a very fun era of public-private partnerships to get that path completed. And here's the out of order slide in my slide deck. The shortest rail trail in Massachusetts, I've been told. This is less than a quarter mile stretch along an old causeway through Goose Pond. On the left is the old railroad causeway you can see. On the right is the repurposed rail trail. I'll just note that if you go along this path, there are steel pilings driven down to kind of reinforce the causeway. Those steel pilings are 14 feet apart, and that's the same width as the original railroad causeway. So a little bit of history and designing some history into the program for the path. So you'll see how it echoes the profile of the railroad causeway to the bike path causeway. Those are very similar, or identical, I'd say. And again, 100 years after the railroad. Future paths, the Wawanet bike path survey was started last summer, and on a variety of surveying, utilities, property lines, environmental, and that's still ongoing. There's going to be some alignment alternatives discussed this summer with stakeholders in the area. They're in very bright green is the Nantucket Conservation Foundation. Some of you may be part of that organization. I know folks who I have. They're a huge stakeholder with this project. The path runs along a lot of property that they control. Like I mentioned, this summer we'll go through an alternatives analysis of different alignment options. Perhaps the path can be aligned to take advantage of some of the natural character of those areas or not. But that discussion will happen this summer with our federal partners who are actually overseeing the design of this path. This project was 100% funded with a federal land access program grant or flat grant that's through federal highway. There is a local appropriation for the path as well. So this project is in good shape financially. Just the timeline and the status of it. We're still in the conceptual design, preliminary engineering phase, and this will likely be another year or two more before we can start thinking about the construction of this project. And similarly with the Tom Nevers Road bike path, this is also in conceptual preliminary design form. Survey was completed over the winter. We're putting together our plans to start our easement negotiations with property abutters along the corridor this summer. That'll be sent out later this month and early part of June and start those negotiations with property owners. This path has a few different interesting elements to it. On the left-hand side, there's the trailhead at the intersection of the Milestone Road path where those two would intersect. The path is going to be aligned on the east side of Tom Nevers Road, and the connection with Milestone bike path will be right at the bus stop there. Some of you might know where the bus shelter is. That would be where the path starts, and there's a educational program element to this that's not fully designed yet. The idea, the concept is to give some information about who Tom Nevers, the person, was, and share that information and have this area be more of just a sitting area and have it be provide some educational opportunity for those who go along the corridor, just to give some character and some interesting features to the path. On the right-hand side, there's a boardwalk that's been proposed through a low-lying gully area, and I'm flaking on the names of the streets. I want to say this is between Lyons and oh gosh, I'm apologize, I can't remember the names of the roads right now, but this is land bank controlled property where this boardwalk will be aligned. The Land Bank Commission has reviewed this option of either doing a causeway through the low-lying area or a boardwalk. Everyone is pretty unanimous that the boardwalk seems to be more of an interesting feature, although more expensive, but that'll be part of the path as well. And again, like I said, that's still in conceptual preliminary engineering, and right-of-way acquisition negotiations will start this summer with the abutters. Oops. Oh gosh, let me go back to, let's see here. Swap out that. There we go. And there was Tom Nevers. Another project it's you might be kind of familiar with is the alternatives for Pleasant Street and Williams Lane. Whether to make Pleasant Street between Williams and Five Corners a one-way or a two-way. With a two-way option on the left-hand side, alternative one, essentially a sidewalk would be provided along the edge of the roadway. It would preserve the vehicle flow through the area, so that'll be a benefit. The burden is the sidewalk would be impactful to some of the trees that provide canopy to this section of Pleasant Street, and the sidewalk isn't necessarily conducive for all users of the roadway, so bicyclists would still have to share the road. I'm sure they could use the sidewalk, but again, then that's 5 feet of width isn't necessarily comfortable for two-way traffic and for bikes and pedestrians. So that'll be a little bit of a conflict and uncomfortable. Or alternative two could be utilized where the traffic flow would be made one way in a northbound direction towards from the Stop and Shop Mid-Island location towards Five Corners. and repurposing the southbound lane for bike and pedestrian use that preserves the tree character and provides accommodations for the other active transportation users. It is rather impactful, though, to traffic flow. The intersection that would be most burdened with this configuration would be the Four Corners or the high school hospital intersection. We do have ideas for improving that intersection, but with this one-way option, it would exacerbate the delay at that intersection, particularly along the Prospect Street and Atlantic Street approaches to the intersection. So that's the evaluation of this is still ongoing, and the select board ultimately, with committee input, will make a decision on which path to take on this project. Again, this is being reviewed by our Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. They've have suggestions or recommendations for which alternative to use. It's currently being reviewed at the Nantucket Historical Commission to identify elements in the road that want to be preserved, and we'll try to come up with a consolidated recommendation at some point through this summer, through this planning process, and what I would say a context-sensitive design process. We're really trying to find compromise and consensus on balancing the different demands for this corridor, historically and for travel purposes. And on the other end of Pleasant Street, by the Stop and Shop, both alternatives would provide angled parking along the north side of Pleasant Street on the, I guess, the Old Island Pharmacy side of the roadway. So that'll create more of a Main Street type of feel for that section of Pleasant Street. And both alternatives include this. Is just how do you configure the lanes and the on-street parking to accommodate one-way or two-way travel flow. And there's a number of different biking initiatives they're still ongoing. We have I mentioned bike parking downtown. That's been expanded, and we have ideas for making even more improvements to that. There's a bike share operation currently ongoing. Some of you might be familiar with Thomas Holt's operation, Sandy Pedals, where you can rent a bike through your cell phone and just for the day if you're a day tripper. We have different bike safety and e-bike initiatives as well. And this hasn't been necessarily rolled out yet, but we have this fun idea for a Brain Bucket Nantucket 2004 sticker that'll be distributed. The idea is that the sticker will be highly reflective, distributed to those who have bike helmets and want to show their pride, Nantucket pride. And this is a Nantucket themed sticker with a year on it. So the idea is that people will want to be part of the safety culture, and this would be a cool thing to kind of display and show pride of wearing your helmet, showing your Nantucket pride, and improve the culture of safety on the island. And hopefully this is a good medium for doing this. The idea is to distribute these through the sheriff's office or the police department, or a number of different ways, and just give it to those who have bike helmets and are wearing them, and spread the culture of wearing bike helmets and safety through the islands this summer using this. Another idea is e-bikes, and some of you might be more familiar than others about the classification system. There are 3 classes of e-bikes. Class 1 and 2, or the pedal assist, or class 2 has a throttle option, but they're the lower speed options. They go at a maximum of 20 miles an hour with the pedal assist. The class 3 are the ones that are more higher performance, higher speed, up to 28 miles an hour. And manufacturers are required to display what the classification is on the bicycle. At the top right, you can see the yellow sticker there. That's the manufacturer's sticker. That is like a 1 or a 2 or a 3-point font on that. So incredibly difficult to identify from any type of distance. On the right-hand side, there is a classification sticker that's much more predominant and can be seen from a good distance. We're having these printed right now. They should be ready in the next few weeks for distributing to those who have e-bikes. Again, those are going to be highly reflective as well, so you can see those in the evening time or at nighttime to see what the classification of bikes are. But this will make it more predominant for those who are on the bikes to take a look at the e-bike and see if it's a 1 or a 2. and appropriate for bike paths, or 3, which are prohibited from bike paths. And I'll just note that no e-bike is actually permitted and through conservation trails, and the Land Bank and the Conservation Foundation do not allow electronic bikes on their paths. But this is at least our effort to help spread at least a better understanding of the classification system of e-bikes, and that not all e-bikes are bad high performance mopeds. There are actually some that are lower speed and actually great. I mean, I'm an e-bike owner, and it does help. I stopped training for the Olympics a long time ago, so it does help actually participate in the bike riding and experiencing the paths without, too much exertion and too much exercise, I guess. And I'll just note that we've provided some comments on a travel brochure. Some of you might be familiar that we hand out these pocket maps through the visitors office in downtown, Cultural and Visitor Services. We've expanded that brochure to include more bike safety tips and e-bike regulations. So that's in print right now and should be available for the public this summer with more information about bike safety and rules of the road and e-bike safety. And Mr. Chair, that's really the end of this slide deck that I have. Again, apologies that I don't have my other Frankenstein together presentation available for you all. You can scan the QR codes, just like everything else in society now. Everything comes with a QR code. Scan that. That'll take you to our public outreach website, and you can participate in some of the surveys that we have ongoing right now. We currently have our Transportation Improvement Program, or our TIP, out for public review. We're taking comments on the investments on Wawanet and Milestone Road for the highway portion of the program. And for the transit program, we're investing in fleet replacement and replacing the buses that are currently diesel run and replacing those with lower emission or electric buses. So if you support those or you don't support those, you can go onto this the TIP project page and participate in that survey and let us know whether you like those investment strategies or not. Or if there are the other projects here, I talked about Tom Nevers, Wawanet Road, and Pleasant Street. You can find those projects on that public outreach page as well, and participate in those surveys and message boards to give us your comments on what you think about the different alternatives and attributes of those projects. I think I'll stop there, Mr. Chair. I will say you can see some images on this slide. On the left-hand side at the very bottom, there is a bus. That's the new electric bus, the E-Jest, that with the new wrap that's on the exterior of the bus. That'll be out this summer, and just want to point that out before we get started with the Q&A. Like that's the new electric bus that's going to be out this summer, and I think it's pretty fun with the Brant Point Lighthouse and a little lightning bolt through it to kind of showcase the electrification of the NRTA fleet. So I'll stop there, Mr. Chair, and happy to take any questions.
Okay, Mike, thank you very much. Let me start the questioning, and then we'll go. I guess the question I have is a little bit more information on the Pleasant Street situation. I happen to live in that general area on Prospect, and I mean I'm curious about the timing of the decision. How much more time is there to have input into that? And as you mentioned, I mean the impact on the four corners at the high school, which is bad enough as it is going to be significantly increased by this. Just your sense of that, and how much time there is to have input. And also, I guess one other aspect is a historical aspect. I must say I'm not sure I understand what that is, and so as we weigh this, or as the town weighs it, how much of a factor is that?
Well, the timeline, you mentioned the historical impacts and the timeline. Those are tied together right now. We want to have a consensus on what that alternative is going to be. It's a bit of an investment. Either direction, whichever option is taken, it's going to be impactful. So the Historical Commission right now is developing a comment letter to let us know what features that are important to them and contribute to the historic integrity of that corridor. Based on those comments, those comments will be incorporated into the design, and we'll try to refine the alternatives. I tell our planning commission and our select board that we really don't have a deadline necessarily. There's not a grant that's kind of tied to a decision on this. So there's no urgency necessarily, and that we can take our time and kind of pick the preferred alternative with good thought. There is a recommendation to pilot the one-way alternative to see if that's actually something that's acceptable to the community, just to try this out without doing the full investment into engineering and construction. And just to see if that the kind of traffic flow pattern is helpful, tolerable by those who drive around through the area, and would actually be utilized by bikes and pedestrian traffic, bike and pedestrian users, and to where everybody is kind of on board with how that traffic flow in the area is going to operate. I mean, again, we do try to sell alternative modes, active transportation. I think that's goes a long way towards reducing congestion on the island if people just choose not to drive alone. So a big part of that is providing facilities so they don't have to drive alone. And that's either public transportation routes get better, or we provide safe, comfortable, and safe accommodations for active transportation. And Nantucket's, it's finite land, a lot of constricted right of way. So we try to balance all of the needs for the different transportation users. So to answer your question on the timeline, I mean, it's really driven by the conversations we're having with the other committees. And we want to give a good, well-informed recommendation to our select board so that they can make a decision and provide direction on which path to take. And with regard to Four Corners, that project right now is stalled. There was some effort to improve that intersection to a roundabout. We have progressed design pretty close to preliminary design to identify all the different right-of-way impacts and the true cost of the roundabout. There is some residual funding left over in that account, and we hope to utilize that. But again, getting that restarted is some effort. The engineers that we had on board for that have gone to do other things, so we're trying to get them back on board and try to get that reactivated so that we can finish the preliminary design of that. But again, that's going to be some years away before that intersection, if it progresses on a good timeline, before that's actually implemented and built.
Could those two be tied together? I mean, if in fact, I mean, because of the impact on Four Corners by the Williams Pleasant Street rather situation, could those two be tied together? In other words, that if there's going to be this cutting the lane at Pleasant Street, which is going to impact Four Corners significantly, can you then bootstrap that to try to get that Four Corners intersection improved?
I don't think it's a hard prerequisite. Like, you don't necessarily, it's not dependent on that. I would just say it would probably make life a lot easier if they were implemented simultaneously. The Pleasant Street operation could happen first, and then there would be some delays in traffic until the intersection is fixed. Whatever that's a year or two down the road, but that would be some level of inconvenience in the meantime. So I wouldn't say they're dependent on each other, but again, it would make life easier.
Okay. All right. Questions? I think Don Green, I saw first. Thanks. Go ahead, Don.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming, Mike. I was wondering about the buses. Number one, will they be able to store bicycles like the old buses? And two, what is available for people with disabilities to get into the bus? And I forgot what three was. That's enough for now.
As far as I know, the new buses do have the bike racks on the front of the buses, and there is the wheelchair lift on all of them, so they're fully accessible. So, and I think that's a requirement to receive federal funding, is that your vehicles are fully accessible. So,
what if they're not in a wheelchair?
I'm sorry?
What if they're not in a wheelchair but have difficulty climbing up into the bus?
Oh, the good news is the new buses that are being purchased, that are replacing the existing fleet, are the low floor versions, to where you don't have to climb a set of stairs to get up into the bus. The buses that we have now are the international frames with diesel buses that, you know, it's very difficult to get into if you have mobility issues. So that's being addressed, and the new fleet will definitely be more accessible for everyone.
Thank you.
Lynn?
I have two questions, Mike. One is enforcement on places like Milestone Road, where you see on the bike path people who are using class 3 bikes. And two, this doesn't cover battery operated skateboards and scooters. And would that be coming as a policy later to incorporate along with the bike policies?
Yeah, so the guidance I'm getting from the town is that they're waiting for the state to kind of provide some direction on this. Massachusetts does have a e-bike classification system, which I mentioned. There's definition of a class 1 and a 2, and regulations for the 1 and the 2, and prohibition of class 3s in certain areas. Flushing out the rest of the details, actually providing a definition for a class 3 and these other devices. It's yet to be done. So the town is really waiting for the state legislature to get that codified into state law before we take local regulations. We definitely had some discussion of should we be taking some bylaws to town meeting this year and having them codified into our local bylaws. But the direction is that the strategy is to kind of wait for that to come down from the state. And every state across the country has a different regulation on e-bikes and these devices. So New York has theirs, Texas has theirs, California has theirs, and Massachusetts, we're kind of operating under the Mass General Law here. So I guess to be determined, I guess, on those strategies. But again, we're just trying to make it easier for everyone to kind of see which class those bikes are by providing these Nantucket themed stickers. Hopefully they're fun, people want them, and it does become more of an educational and informational as well as a fun cultural thing that people want to participate in. But we're trying to do our part locally. It's just, like I said, we got to rely a lot on state law.
Okay, Donna?
Mike, thank you for speaking with us this morning. It sounds like you've been pretty busy already. I have two questions. One, I have a cottage on West York Lane, and it is truly a very tiny lane. And some of the neighbors have been talking about the opportunity to make it a one-way street because you can't even park in the lane, and it is considered a two-way lane. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention if it has not been discussed before. And the other is, are there any ideas for restricting construction vehicles and trucks in the summer? Any kind of ongoing meetings with the leaders in the construction industry to kind of work on early mornings or late afternoons or rerouting, something to alleviate the congestion that we've been experiencing over the last few years?
Short answer is no on the restriction of construction vehicles. I think that's just a product of the demand for from the island is for a lot of these services. So other than the noise bylaw, there's really not a lot that we can do, and limitations on parking of construction vehicles overnight and that kind of a thing. Those type of management strategies, that's all in place right now. So
and no opportunity for rerouting. Some of those huge trucks, Toscana trucks, are basically taking up Prospect Street. And they are very noisy. I don't know if they go against the law, but they are very noisy.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that's a product of having the landfill over on Matticat Road and some of the other industrial uses over on Milestone Road and in town. So I think Prospect Street will always be the crossroads of the island and used by all different transportation users, including construction vehicles. We do have a truck route that I think a lot of these 18-wheelers and whatnot adhere to. I don't think any of them want to get stuck on some of the roads that they can't get out of. There is a classification system and a truck route that we do try to utilize, but yeah, some of these, I don't think prohibiting them from certain corridors, I think is going to be, can be done. But just incentivize the corridors that are actually conducive to truck traffic, and just keep those advertised. But I don't think we can do any prohibited things, although it's been discussed, for years now, what kind of strategies there are. If you have ideas too, we can talk about that. And regarding to West York Lane, if that's something that the neighborhood would like, I would highly suggest that you send an email to me and or town administration with that request. And if there's any other requests from anyone here, that's probably a good strategy, is talk to your neighbors and put together a letter and send it to our traffic safety work group to see, have that evaluated, and we can make a recommendation to the select board on different traffic flow options.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay, Pam?
Yes, Mike, I was kind of following off the same thing. I was going to ask you if there was a way to contact the work group. I live in Sconset, and I know that a lot of people out there have concerns about what's happening with Maury Lane because of the construction down by Cannonberry, and that a lot of our village roads have gotten really congested over the years. And I actually sat in on some changes to traffic flow that took place back in 2005, 2006, and we were all very upset about, but there were some stronger voices in the village, like the then owner of the market and some people who just wanted to put in more parking spaces that have caused some accidents and some congestion. So if there's a group that we could contact to come out and take a look at what's going on, it would be fabulous.
You can email me or mburns@nantucket-ma.gov, Erica Mooney, or there's the town website has a general public comments portal that you can send an email to. So yeah, anything, but it's helpful to have it in writing and to have kind of the request kind of outlined, so that the group can kind of take a look at it and then get it prioritized with some of the other ongoing requests that we're reviewing.
Thank you. That's great. And also following up on Donna's note about construction vehicles, is there anything in a master plan that none of us are aware of that would bring traffic from the old south side to Milestone, other than the Nobadir Road that now is, totally like 45 minutes of sitting in traffic in the mornings because of the construction vehicle flow from there?
You're asking if there's a bypass?
Yeah, if there's a bypass on the secret book that like we can all look optimistically towards,
Oh yeah, well, the secret book's secret. I'm joking. Actually, we did do an evaluation as part of the Old South Road corridor study. That's something, if you just Google Old South Road corridor study, you can find the report online. That did look at providing a connection between Old South Road and Milestone Road in the vicinity of the water company and the Milestone Connector bike path. If you're familiar with that, that's
yes, yeah,
it's kind of around Young's Way in that kind of area. Looking at the traffic flow there, and again, it's looking at movements, turning movements at various intersections. And when we did an evaluation of the cut through there, the expense, the benefit didn't really seem to outweigh the expense of that. That would be utilized. There'd be definitely some traffic that would utilize a cut through road at that location and avoid either the Rotary or the Nobadir Farm Road intersection. The idea being that they may need to get to Milestone Road or Pulpus Road and not use those intersections. It was too much of an expense for the limited amount of benefit that it would provide. Those conditions may change over time and it become more attractive, but not for that particular project. There are other options for connecting some of the roads parallel to Old South Road to have those used as an option to go east and west or in some other direction. Whether it's Rugged Road or Tacoma Road or whatever, I think that has to be kind of fleshed out a little bit more. There's really not a hard set plan or study to evaluate those. If it's an idea that seems attractive to some here, I would highly suggest you kind of submit that and
Great.
propose that or ask others to propose it. As far as Noble Deer Farm Road itself, the one project that's actually starting very soon, probably this fall, I think we're going through the process of selecting a design engineer for the project, is the Noble Deer Farm Road Milestone Road intersection, which right now is just the one-stop control for Noble Deer Farm Road. But as part of that Old South Road corridor study, the preferred option was a roundabout at that intersection, which would actually make it possible to take a left-hand turn out of Noble Deer Farm Road onto Milestone Road. So that would go a long way to reducing the queues along Noble Deer Farm Road, just to actually allow a safer, more convenient left-hand turn off of that road onto Milestone Road. Greatly reduce delay, improve congestion, air quality, safety, do a lot of good things. So that area is finally grown up. It's gotten built out, and now it's, I guess, time for it to go back through and assess the infrastructure and improve some heavily queued intersections as a result of that.
Great, thank you.
Great.
Yeah.
All right, Gary, you get the last question here for Mike.
Okay. First, with respect to what I want to reiterate what Peter said about the possible closing of, what's it, Prospect Street, the 2 lanes to 1 lane.
Yeah.
The Four Corners is already a disaster. And to close that down, make the other road one way would be just a disaster. So I like the thought that Peter had. And Peter, my suggestion is that as we follow the progress of this, at some point, if in fact there seems to be some movement to actually try that even as an experiment, I would suggest that we, the Advisory Committee for Non-Voting Taxpayers, pass a resolution to send to the Select Board saying that we recommend, if you're going to be thinking of that, it ought to be tied to changing the Four Corners. We all were in favor of the rotary that was recommended several years ago. And anytime there's a big tree, those projects get killed. But I think I like Peter's suggestion, and I think we ought to, as a committee, if we need to Select Board saying that we think that you ought to tie the 2 together, so that if in fact they're going to do that, the first one, close that down from 2 lanes to 1 way, then at least there must be approval given for the conversion of the Four Corners to a proper rotary that would ease the difficult, impossible stuff that goes on there now. And by the way, Mike, I noticed when looking through the notices that I get regularly from the town, that there's an awful lot of notices coming out saying that the 5 Corners is under construction. What's going on there now? It's not changing the 2 to 1. So there seems to be a lot of work going on there now, because I get those notices every day. What's going on there?
Sure.
Yeah, unfortunately, or fortunately, there's a lot of sewer upgrades going on right now, and it's not going to be done this spring. That'll continue on into the fall with I think Pleasant Street's going to be closed down for a while as they get sewer improvements along that section of Pleasant Street. So the timing of this, we're kind of thinking this now, if we could reopen the road, reopen Pleasant Street, and maybe open it up as and pilot the 1-way option. That might be something that could be done after that road is opened up after the sewer improvements, or not, and go with a different strategy. But if, Mr. Chair, if the committee wanted to provide some comments or some collective input, such as tying the intersection improvements to the traffic flow improvements, that's the kind of feedback that I would encourage.
Okay, good. All right. Let's thank Mike. Just one clarification, Mike, just to understand this. Any effort on whether you're finishing up the sewer work at 5 Corners or changing the direction at Pleasant Street, I take it that's not going to happen by this summer. In other words, we'll get through this summer without that. Do I hear that implied or not?
I would say yes, because I think that's what I'm hearing. There's
Okay.
really not an there's really not an appetite right now to test it this summer.
Good.
It'll be sometime in the future.
Good. All right. That also gives us some time to put our thoughts together for you. Well, thank you for giving up your Saturday morning, or at least an hour of it, to us. We appreciate it. You've got a tough job, but we appreciate the opportunity to talk with you about these issues and be heard.
My pleasure, Mr. Chair. And if you want me to come back again at the end of the summer to kind of see how everything's went, I'm happy to come
Great,
back.
great. We may well do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Let's then turn to the other items on the agenda. We should get an update on the Town Council Study Committee from Donna and Lynn. So whoever wants to do that.
Donna and Pam.
I'm sorry, Donna and Pam. I'm sorry.
Okay, there was a glitch with the, we had a meeting on Wednesday. Unfortunately, there was a glitch with Zoom, so I was not able to attend. Up until then, we've been meeting every other week, and Collins Management is now fully engaged with our committee. They're providing information about the number of the 4 different forms of government, and we're educating ourselves as to the benefits and the negatives of each one. I don't think we're ready to vote on it. We tried to have a vote several meetings ago, and we were advised not to. We are charged with recommending a town council, but it doesn't seem like we're there yet as a whole. I would say there's the open town meeting. Most of the governments in Massachusetts are open town meetings. There's the representative form of government, and some of our committee members are interested in that, but that requires maybe a couple of hundred representatives. So it's very cumbersome. There's town management, town manager and council. We already have a town manager who is appointed. That seems to be a better way to go with town council. And then there's a mayor, of course, who's selected with town council. We want to get everything together. We want to be as a whole before we present anything to the public. We're not ready to present to the public unless something happened on Wednesday. I do not know. But having Collins Management involved with us has been very helpful. They're distilling the issues and presenting clearer pictures as to a way forward. Tom Dixon is on the committee, since he's on the select board also, there seems to be a bit of concern about what happens to the select board, but we also say, and Peter Holly, you know, we've also said that it would make perfect sense to move the select board members right into town council if we get to that point. Joe Grouse is our chair, and he is adamant about moving forward into a town council. But we're not there yet as far as everybody. So I think, Curtis, are you here?
Curtis was here, and he decided to leave because we can't really watch what's going on here. So
yes, I don't know. We haven't gotten minutes yet from this past Wednesday's meeting, but I'll be happy to update everybody in
I have one thing to add, Donna, because I did watch the meeting live. And
could you? Okay.
I did. You're right, it was hard to get into it. But the Zoom, it should be posted also on the town's website now if you wanted to watch it again. The only thing
Joe mentioned it after the fact, so now I know.
The one thing that they did agree on, I believe, was to do outreach at the Civic Association summer meetings to reach out through the NCL to the different neighborhood associations this summer to meet, to present where the status of where you guys are to any of the civic associations that have their annual meetings and would like to have a speaker from your group. So I think that's
good.
That was agreed on.
Can we get some clarification here quickly, Donna, on the timing?
Yes.
Is there a charge to committee to present a proposal within a certain period of time or not?
You know, it was discussed, but I don't know what the, we were thinking a year or two.
Okay, okay,
A year or two.
okay.
That
Peter?
has been discussed. Yes, Peter.
Peter,
Yeah.
Kelly?
So I'm just wondering about the form of your decision. It was when you reach a conclusion, it seems to me that there are two pieces that need to be probably included in that conclusion, either one or two pieces. One would be, describe the form of government that you're recommending. And the two would be the actual bylaw language that would put that into effect. And I don't know whether, and probably I'm not sure that you know or even the committee knows right now, is what is the final work product that that the committee intends to deliver? Just some sort of decision and description, or something with more, more to it?
Every time something comes up, then even Collins mentions that you can have an amendment to a charter. So you can amend just about everything.
Yeah.
As far as where we want to go, Joe Grouse wants us to fulfill the charge that we have been given as a committee, which is to move forward as a town council with probably town manager. We're not everybody is there yet, but the fact that Kathy was just sharing what happened on Wednesday, I think the way it is put, Kathy, I think you're right, is we're just discussing where we are at this time.
Right.
Because, we're not everybody, not every member is interested in moving forward with town council.
Right.
It's a lot of work. So
And Donna,
I think that I think we need a few more meetings before we can convince even everybody in our own committee that we should move forward to town council. Personally, I think it's important for us, being non-voting taxpayers and representing our group, because we will have a greater opportunity to participate in this. So this is vitally important to me and our group. And also there's, discussion about reaching out to our non-English speaking population as well. And that is something that came up 2 weeks ago. So.
Okay. Pam, do you want to add?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I just wanted to back Donna up and just clarify, because I don't know if this came out earlier, but obviously when this group got started, they were very focused on doing what the warrant article asked them to do, which is explore transitioning to a town council. A few meetings into that, there was some pushback that we should be looking at everything, all the different options. So there has been a little backpedaling, but that investigation is hopefully going to help bring some people on board. And I also think there's been a lot of concern about what really happens to town meeting, because there are some people who just want to hang on to it. And it's been interesting that in some locations, they have gone to town council where people can come in and talk at any meeting about the issues they like, and they still have a yearly meeting just to address some less pertinent or less critical issues. So there's really a lot of education going on as to how different municipalities have done this in the past. And I think there's a real genuine concern, as Donna said, to educate the community on what their voice will be going forward, to build some support for this before it goes into any kind of vote. So I think, there's been a little bit of a setback, but I think the progress is evident that people are getting a better understanding of what's trying to take place.
Okay, very good. Let's keep. We've got a full agenda. Unless there's something critically important, Donna, that just seems to me that we got to move on to ATM is next week, and I'd like to.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
and
I'd like
to
to
be
hear.
continued at our next meeting then.
Sure. Sure. Well, yeah, absolutely. We're going to hear from you at every meeting because
Yes.
as long as this goes on.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
It's
let's
very
talk.
interesting. It's going very well also.
Good,
We'll
good.
say that.
All right, good. ATM. Kathy seems to be on top of all this better than, or at least as well as anyone. So, Kathy, to the extent that we have, what is the status of any of the issues that we have weighed in on? Those are
Well, the only thing that I would be speaking to at town meeting as far as the advisory committee would be if any discriminatory
right.
Issues came up. I listened into the prep meeting that Sarah runs, and it doesn't sound like there would be, but I'm really not sure. We've heard rumors. That's all I've heard, rumors that that the negotiations on Articles 60, 61, and 62, which were the three general bylaws, that Michael Kopko is now kind of pulling back from the agreement for his, I'm not sure why, but that he may try to call those different articles and make would get confusing again if that happened. So I don't know if that's true or not. It's just a rumor. But the other thing to point out is that there is going to be another special town meeting this year. On September 17th, there's not a lot of time. I think May 30th would be the due date for submitting any citizens articles, and you need 100 signatures or more on a citizens article if it's a special town meeting. So because there were once the judge's decision came down that primary use for an STR is illegal and an accessory use may be possible, the ZBA is now going to meet, I believe it's on June 3rd, to have a public hearing on that item. So the town is not appealing that decision. They're allowing the thing to flow forward and have town meeting. So they're going to wait for town meeting to make their decision on 59 and 60, or maybe all four of them. And then they will meet after that if they need to. So if Article 59 were to pass, they wouldn't need to meet and respond to the judge's decision. So that's going to be a public meeting on June 3rd. I think they've already put some information out about that. So the other articles, there's several of them out there. We didn't take any position on any of them at all. So I'll be there and we'll see what happens.
All right, let me ask you quickly this on the STR. I thought I saw something recently with regard to a new proposal that the people are trying to put forward with regard to accessory use, and they were trying to get that may come to the floor. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, but it really can't come to the floor. That's one of the reasons that they're going to have a special town meeting, because this would be under the assumption that 59 fails, then this would go forward at the special town meeting to identify accessory use. The problem right now is there's no definition of that term or primary use in the town code. So it's whatever anybody thinks it means. And that's a problem because it's so ambiguous. Anybody is up to being challenged, have a challenge. So I think the idea of the proposed other articles, if 59 fails, would be to then define those terms so that you could know whether you were complying or not. Right now, you can't know.
I can't do that on the floor. I just want to make sure that we're not surprised that there's an amendment on the floor to this town meeting to deal with the accessory use.
I think that it would be considered out of scope to do that. So I don't think that'll come up. And but do we want to talk about what if it did?
Well, let's Peter's got his hand raised. We may come back to that if he's not. Go ahead, Peter.
It's the same issue, Peter. I wrote to the moderator, as I said after the last meeting, and just raised the issue that as it stood in the published warrant, the STR proposals did not appear to discriminate against non-voting taxpayers, but that we were concerned that there might be amendments brought to the floor, in which case we would hope that they would be either ruled out of scope if they were discriminatory, and I also raised the constitutionality issue. The moderator responded to me by forwarding my email to the town administrator and to the town council, which is totally appropriate, and making the obvious response that constitutionality is not her business, but scope is, and therefore she has her eyes open to the issues we raised. In addition, I said that we would have a representative at the meeting if such a thing happened. I know discriminatory amendments, and it sounds like the amendments that you were talking about, Peter, would be discriminatory, depending on exactly what they say, and that Kathy would be there and would address those should they arise, and asking that she be recognized on our behalf.
So
yeah,
that's the accessory use issue, Peter?
yes.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know, Peter, whether, I'm not quite sure, obviously, until we hear or see the proposal, whether or not it is in fact discriminatory. I must say that any amendment on the floor to define accessory use is going to be, it's going to be need to be given some thought rather than 5 minutes of debate and a vote. So I would say that it's and if there's a scheduled special town meeting anyway, that it ought to be deferred until then, and then the zoning board can deal with it. I mean, that just seems to me to make much more sense as a governing matter, and so I think from that perspective, if there's no discrimination, we still ought to, Kathy ought to at least, she could say it for her group, and maybe not for ours, but somebody ought to say that. Right. I mean, I think that I assume, Kathy, that Nantucket Together that would be their position. Hey, we don't want.
Right. And that's why we're 459, because it makes all of that moot, and it then lets you regulate anything you want to regulate. You can regulate in a general bylaw, right. And this does not stop. This does not open the floodgates to the world. You could decide at special town meeting that you want to only allow STRs to operate on Tuesdays. You can do anything you want to limit that. So that's, I just want to be clear on what I should say on the advisory committee's behalf and what I would say on my own. That's all. I think on the advisory committee's behalf, you can only speak to whether or not it is in fact discriminating between residents and non-residents. Right. It's indirectly discriminating because because if you're a full-time resident, then you don't have an accessory use issue unless you own more than one property and you can't live in them both at the same time. So it's discriminatory against people who can't live here or be in their home. It depends on the definition. Yeah, but I think it depends on the definition, because I mean, I tend to agree with you, but the definition that was floated out there was, I think, only requiring 4 weeks. I think that if you lived in your house 4 weeks, then you could rent a certain period of time. But I hear you. I just I happen to think that this is the 59 is going down. I just, having been through this drill before, I don't see it passing. And so, so if it doesn't pass, I think we need more time to deal with this issue. Is where I would. So okay. The other things that are going to come up at the town meeting is I just lost the thought that I had on that. There's something else I forgot to mention about what's going on. The planning board is meeting on Monday. So what part of the deal in the negotiation of the 59 and 60 into 2 companion articles was that 59 would get a recommendation not to take action unless there was a negative ruling on the behalf of the judge, which turns out there was. So the planning board is meeting on Monday with a public hearing, supposedly to consider changing that as the agreement was with the citizens articles back to a recommended to vote for. And if they do that, the finance committee is actually meeting at 4:15 before the 5 o'clock town meeting the next day to do the same thing, to flip them both around to a vote yes. So that's also that'll help. Okay, yeah. That'll help. All right, Gary.
When I read all of the rancor that exists reading those crazy letters from the different groups now, it seems to me it's going to be impossible to get a zoning thing passed because you need the 2/3.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think what will be interesting is that on an issue like this, which is so controversial, everyone is screaming about, the question really is, how many people are actually going to show up at the meeting and vote? We have 9,000, I think it's 9,200 registered voters in the town. And over the last 5 meetings, we've never had more than 920 people. So we've never had more than around 10% of the entire population. And when you think about, maybe a lot of people show up, there's actually no place for them to go. There's no room in the auditorium or in the gym or anything else. But so likely it'll just be the activists. What?
Sarah said
it's just the activists.
The town is planning for 2,000 people this time.
Yeah, I don't know where they're going to put them, on the lawn, maybe, because
I don't either.
We'll see. We'll see how many show up. It'll be interesting.
Have you seen all the videos? And I mean, the local people have gotten engaged this time around because of the judge's ruling. So there is a lot of, there's a whole business community. The chamber came out in favor. The business community's got yard signs all over the place for the jobs, the restaurant people, people at the brewery, all these people are saying vote yes. And nobody's ever really said anything before. So it's interesting that the voters themselves are becoming active where they really never have been.
And Kathy, you told us about these 2 meetings that are going to happen, between the planning board and the finance committee prior to the meeting, so that they may change their recommendations. You know what? It doesn't matter, because everyone has their mind made up. The people, I would say that 75% of the people who are attending the meeting they're one side or the other. They've made their mind up. They couldn't care less what the planning board changes and what the finance committee changes. It's really sad.
Well, I think the real question is going to be, in what order do they take these? Will they take it as 59th or first? Because I think that will be interesting. My guess is it's going to come up very early on, and then the place will clear out, and it be even fewer voters, Gary, that'll deal with all these things.
Well, did you see one of that new group of those 3 ladies who keep bitching and moaning about this stuff? They made a point at the select board 2 weeks ago, saying they're very worried about whether someone is going to change the time when these proposals come up, whether they're going to be the first one on the agenda or later on, and they think somebody might be manipulating the result. So people are concerned about when it's just unbelievable.
Okay.
Unbelievable.
Okay.
And the answer that the select board said was show up on time. Be there.
And stay for the duration.
Stay the whole time. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, we got maybe you can, Kathy, you can be blogging with us, or you giving us sort of like what they're doing with the Trump trial.
Isn't it on Zoom? I think it's.
Oh, that's right. It is on Zoom. You're right.
Yeah,
we can Zoom. You can text me anyway.
Okay, we'll do that.
Because I get to sit in the front where the police can watch me and make sure I don't do anything I shouldn't. I mean, it's perfect because I get a seat and no one can steal it from me. It's a great place.
A valuable asset as a committee. Okay, let's move on then. Unless anybody else has any questions with regard to the town meeting next week, I don't see any. On the agenda, we have. I guess we have. If anyone else wants to discuss it, this issue of I guess that someone alluded to earlier on construction noise and limitation on construction work over the summer as a possible ATM article in 2025. I must say that and it's been said before that I think it's a Don Quixote type of act. I think you're chasing windmills. I think it was interesting to hear. It was interesting to hear Mike Burns. I mean, he didn't give it the time of day, the idea of challenging the construction industry. So I really think we ought to be thinking long and hard about whether or not that's even worth pursuing on our part. But I leave it to the committee to make that decision. So is there anybody who wants to address that now, or do we want to just, we've got plenty of time, Peter?
I agree with you fully. I think it's a dead on arrival issue. If we want to do anything in that area, I think some interested group of our members ought to get together with a copy of the existing noise bylaws and then see what kind of modest changes we would propose and figure out whether there's any political will to get those changes through a town meeting, whether town government will sort of buy into some of those changes. I think the way to approach this is not by railing about construction noise. It's rather by looking holistically at noise vis-a-vis, construction, summer rentals, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
What is a sensible noise regulation?
I think the other thing might make sense is that if someone's really interested in doing this, is to at least at the outset ask for a meeting with the head of Toscano in a friendly kind of way and say, hey, is there anything that can be done here that would work for both parties before just
you mean the head of ACT now, Peter?
Well, that's fine.
Oh, great. You meet with him. Good luck. Good luck.
He's no longer in existence, or at least the group isn't. But anyway, all right, Donna.
Yeah, actually, I'll meet with whoever the head of Toscana is on behalf of our group.
No, I don't think it should be on behalf. No, I don't think it should be on behalf of the group until we come up. I mean, I would personally do it in your personal capacity because our group doesn't have a position as yet. I mean, I think it's unless we have a position, I don't think you can really speak on behalf of the group.
Well, if I could speak individually, because my property is right on Prospect.
Sure.
The other thing is, what about emissions? These big trucks, don't they have like huge emission? And don't we have emission control or something like the EPA or something? Is that another way to address it?
Possibly. Every once in a while, I do see them coming down Prospect Street with a big black smoke coming out, but not always. Not always. But certainly worth talking to the town about. Whoever's in charge of that, you should talk to and see what you can learn. Sure. Lynn?
I know this has come up from Libby Gibson asking the Sconset Civic Association to go back to the noise issue by saying it works for the historic districts in both town and Sconset, that the next step would be to broaden it for the entire island. And that is something that's being worked on from them. So you might see something from the Nantucket Civic League as an issue to band together all of the civic leagues.
Well, just to be clear, what is the noise limitation right now in Sconset? Is it certain hours? Is that what you're referring to?
Just the historic district has different hours in the summer. So you can look at the bylaw. It's very confusing because if it's current construction, it's a certain calendar, and if it's emergency construction, it's a different calendar. But it's basically June to Labor Day, and it's 8 o'clock instead of 7:30.
Oh, okay.
It's not a lot, but it could be worked on. And just as a point of note here, I'm going to have to leave the meeting in 10 minutes. So I would have to stop recording just so that
I think we're going to wrap. That's good. Okay. We're getting close to wrapping up, so that's a good is to do so. All right. Quickly here, let's just see. Is there a report, Steve, from the PR committee? You're muted, Steve.
Okay, you can hear me now.
Yes.
Just a brief report. First thing I want to do is ask CL if you are still on the call. If you could tell us how you heard about the meeting and why you attended. If you could unmute and tell us that, But I jump in if I've got a 1 minute question and report. Sent the news release out to all 3 of the publications. It appeared in a variety of ways, in a couple of them twice, including the Inky online yesterday with no time. But anyway, I will continue to do that. And maybe when we meet, when most of us are on the island, or many of us are on the island next month, we'll get people live and in person. But the question is, and Patty and I have been talking about this, is should we be doing anything else? Should the PR committee be doing anything else to raise awareness of our group besides just sending news releases and let people come to the meetings?
Well, I think there was some talk, and maybe we can do this at the next meeting when we have more time, about, you know, sort of being at the civic group, the various different civic groups around the town this summer to be available, or to make a statement, or to prepare something that could be read as to who we are, and to the extent that people don't know who we are, and what we do, and that would be that might reach the most non-residents at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Peter, 2 things, just real quick. We had 2 people that Curtis Barnes was here and another woman was here, and they came in person because they saw the ad and they wanted to see Mike Burns, and they were hoping he would be here, which of course, okay. So they were disappointed in that, because they wanted that in-person kind of thing. So they wanted to see him. I said, so sorry. And then the other thing, there was one more thing on the PR stuff. Oh, when I did a webinar for Steve Cohen and Arthur Reed to talk about Articles 59 and 60 last week, earlier Monday. And one of the first questions that somebody put in the Q&A was, because I identified my various roles on the island and being secretary of this group. And this guy says, "What is that? Can you tell me more about it?" So it was very interesting. That was the very first question. And it wasn't even an STR question. So there are people that I did get a chance to put that out there to the 100 people that were on the call.
Okay. And if I could ask that at the next meeting or the one after, if we promise to keep the discussion to 8 minutes, if we can go earlier in the meeting, because by the time we get to the end of the meeting, many of the people who do come to either on the Zoom or in person have left.
No, that's good point, Steve. Just let's move that up, so you can, that'd be great. Okay. Our next meeting is set for the first weekend in June, I believe, right?
Peter, I have a question for you.
Okay.
For us, really. The question is, so the next meeting is June.
Yeah.
We normally, in the past, have been starting the season with a meeting sometime in June, and we meet every 2 weeks, every other Saturday. And the first meeting, we have been inviting the
Libby.
Libby. So have we scheduled that yet?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at. That's what I'm trying to find out here. What this I think the next meeting is as scheduled as the first weekend in June. But is that correct?
That would be June 1st.
June 1st. I cannot host that meeting. I'll be in Kentucky.
Yeah.
So I can't be here, and someone else would have to run the meeting and host it online.
Yeah, I'm not on island until I get on the island Saturday the 15th at night. So that's but we would start. I guess we would start could start the 2 a month in June, right? And then June, July, August. Was it 2 a month, or was it every 3 weeks? I can't recall.
I think it used to be every 3 weeks.
Every 3 weeks, yeah, that's what I thought. All right. Well, if it's every 3 weeks, then we could have the one as scheduled. But you can't do it. You can't do it on island. Can you do it from Kentucky, Kathy, or not?
No, I'll be riding a motorcycle. I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Well, all right.
Peter, you've done it before. I don't know if you'll be up for that.
I've done it before, and I may be able to do that. But
okay.
I just need to sort of go through retraining and get whatever the the current codes are, because they change the
Right.
passcodes every year.
Now, that would be remote still, right?
Yes, I assume the
Yeah.
first one would be remote, and it would be the third,
Yep.
3 weeks later would be we would be in person, because I think but most people would be up by that time.
And that would put us on a good 3-week cycle, because it'll get us beyond the 4th of July for the following meeting.
Right. Well, yeah, it would be before the 4th of July for the following meeting.
Yeah, before the late June, and then,
Right. Okay, we'll work on that, but that's the game plan. Is there anything else anybody has before we adjourn?
So I guess we just on that sort of late June meeting, that's one where we should have Libby.
Yes. Can you go ahead and invite her?
Yeah.
Or Peter?
We'll get a date, and then we'll invite her.
Okay, probably the last weekend in June.
In that order.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. Thanks to all for attending. Hopefully we haven't taken too much of your Saturday morning. Looks like we're right on time, which is good. And Lynn, thanks for taping this. And Mike, oh, you're still on. Thank you. You didn't have to do that, but okay. Well, I hope you learned something from about.
Peter, I move we adjourn.
Thank you. All right. Seeing no second, I see a second, and seeing no opposition, we are adjourned. Thank you.